Okay, so I kind of got two problems here. My first problem is trying to mount the sprocket to this wheel here. So originally I was going to use a rag joint for this, but if you notice, there's a lot of spokes on this wheel. I don't know how many spokes are on this wheel and I'm too lazy to count it, but I know that's not normal. So when you put the rag joint, well, this is the gasket, but when you put it on, you'll notice the bolt holes are not lining up. They're actually, some of them are going to hit the spokes on this wheel. So I can't use the rag joint on this wheel. See, here's the difference. Well, let me get this out of the way. So here's the difference. This is just another wheel. I don't know what it came off of. I just had it laying around. But this would fit perfectly. See, it doesn't really hit the spokes. So I can use a rag joint, but this is not the drive wheel. This is just the wheel for steering. So this leaves me with another option. I can use a sprocket hub adapter for it, but I still kind of run into the same problem. The hub adapter cannot fit between the spokes here. Because there's too many spokes on this wheel, this hub adapter cannot fit through. It has to be able to come through these spokes. I do have another option. I could use the freewheel side and mount a sprocket onto the freewheel, but I will lose my brakes, and I don't want to lose my brakes. So this leaves me with one last choice, and that's just to take a Type A sprocket. It's just a plain sprocket, no hub on either side. Weld it onto the hub itself. Now I wanted to try to avoid that. This is a permanent solution. However, if I do weld it to the hub, I can't get the spokes off. If I ever have to remove the spokes, I won't be able to because the sprocket will be in the way. Fortunately, I don't have to worry about my spokes getting damaged because I don't have the rag joint and I don't have the hub adapter on here to potentially damage them. However, when I weld this on to the hub, I got to be very careful not to apply too much heat to the hub. The outer raceway for the bearings could warp. If that happens, the bearings won't be able to work properly and this wheel won't spin. So I got to apply minimal heat here and all the heat onto this. Yes, I did grind down my beads because those were ugly welds. It's really hard to weld something really thick onto a bearing. It's not a good idea to weld onto a bearing, but I had no choice in this situation. Luckily, I didn't warp the outer race. It still works. I just gotta put more grease in there. Alright, remember when I said I had two problems? One problem being the sprocket, not being able to mount on the tire. Well, that's figured out. The second problem is this back end. Because this was built for a 20-inch wheel, everything is super tight and the clearances are very small. So this is a 40 chain that I'm going to be using. Now that I'm thinking about it, I should have used 420 or even 415 chain, because 40 chain is pretty wide. It's the same pitch, but it's just wide. Kind of too late because I already welded the sprocket on, so there's no going back. The chain is hitting the top rail. It would also hit the bottom rail too. And because the jack shaft's going to sit right here, the bottom chain has to come up over this rail and the top chain has to stay below the upper rail. So what I decided to do to combat this, like I said, I can't change the sprocket. I already screwed up on that. I'm going to widen the back end so that way I have enough clearance for the chain to come through. I could just use idlers and put a bunch of idlers here to try to shape the chain around these rails, but that's just going to put more stress on the chain, and I'd rather not do that. Now originally this 1/2-inch pipe was for my control arms, but since I scrapped my first idea for the control arms, I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to make it out of 3/4-inch pipe, not 1/2-inch pipe. This is pretty much scrap metal. The 1/2-inch pipe is almost about the same diameter as these two pieces here, and they're already bent too, so I can just come in. I'll cut it to length, but I can just easily widen the back end like so. I'm going to have to do that for the top and the bottom so the chain can clear. Okay, so that's done. I tried my best to weld around. It's kind of hard to weld around pipe. It's not the prettiest. I will go around and grind off some of these beads, but I think it came out pretty well. Well enough for me. The next thing I need to do, since this is all figured out, is the jack shaft. It's gonna go into there. Yeah, so I'm just gonna create a bracket for the bearing hangers, cut the bracket, so weld it right here. Kind of the same setup how I had it on the mini chopper and that Trike that I built. So I kind of got it where I need it to be, or at least the shaft. I'm trying to get alignment. This part is absolutely crucial. This will make or break your chain popping off constantly. There's a good way to do this. Now if you're fortunate enough, you use a straight edge, something like this, put it there, and then line it up, the chain back there, the sprocket back there. And because of this tight area, I can't fit a straight edge. I could fit it this way, but there could be a slight bend in it. Doesn't look like there's a bend, but there could be a slight bend if you have it like that. I'm gonna get it as close as possible, and then I'm gonna put a tack on it that can get rid of all this stuff up here, and then I can really dial it in with the tack. Okay, so when putting this engine on, I noticed my sprockets, though they're still aligned, you can't really tell when doing that, but if you look up here, as I was welding it, it warped. So I welded on this side first, so it pulled it over here to this side. Oh, you can really tell right here, offset that sprocket is compared to the engine. That was my bad. I shouldn't have welded a full bead on one side. Should just put a whole bunch of tacks. So that's going to be an issue with the alignment, at least up here. back here I have it spaced correctly, so that's okay. Is I'm gonna have to cut here and cut on the other side as well, and see if I can bend this in just a little bit. Both sides, I can bend this one out and then this one in a little bit, and hopefully I can align this shaft a little better. It may pull that sprocket in a little bit too. Well, it's worth a shot though, so I'm gonna see if I can do that. Okay, so I went and I cut this off, both of them. I tried to bend them back. One of them, I think this one ended up breaking off, so I just broke them off, re-welded them on, and I got the sprocket. This one's absolutely perfect. This one's spot on. This one is, oops, this one's a pain in the butt. This is going to take me probably hours to try to get alignment, because I think I got it on straight and then it's at an angle, and then I go to compensate and then it's even worse. So I already spent like 30 minutes trying to align it and it's still not straight. I got the engine mounts tacked. I'll get that welded on later. I just need to find where this is at so I can cut a spacer for that. I kind of hate this sprocket here. It looks real nice. It's aluminum. The profile or the shape of these teeth, they leave absolutely no wiggle room. I don't know if you could tell, but they take up the entire space of the chain. I don't know if you can see the teeth on the sprocket here. They're actually kind of tapered in, so you actually get just a little bit of wiggle room. This sprocket, you don't get that. This needs to be absolutely precise. Otherwise, you'll end up popping off like that. So it needs to be precise. Alright, you guys don't realize how long I've been here trying to align this. I finally got it straight. So I've been here for like an hour or so trying to make sure that this is aligned, but I got it as aligned as possible. So buyer beware, if you get a sprocket like this with no taper here on the tooth profile, you're going to have to spend about an hour or so trying to align this, because these teeth fit perfectly inside. Those teeth are okay on the clutch. They have a little taper in it, so you know you can have just a little misalignment. It'll be okay. I slotted these holes here. Originally the mounting holes are here. I went out about an inch out here on the right side. The reason why I slotted it so that way the engine could slide back and forth and I can get it that much more straight with the sprocket on the shaft here. This might be a good idea, or it may just bite me in the butt later on, but we'll see. But I'm just going to clean this up and I can get the engine back on. Oh, by the way, it's really coming down out there. Yeah, like I said, this may work or it may screw me over. So now I can line the sprocket up the way I need it to be. Now I gotta spend another couple hours trying to align this. Great. Well, you can see it's a lot better now, because before the engine was just slightly over and you could see the chain was kind of bent a little this way. So now it looks a lot more straight, especially when I add the tensioner. Oh yeah, I don't know if you can see that. That's way more straight. If only if I could slot it this way and I can just tension in, I don't need to add the tensioner here. I got some thunder too. I don't know if you can hear that. I don't know if you heard that, but that was thunder. So that's the plan. I want the tensioner to face into the driven sprocket. Okay, real fast. I lost the rest of this camera footage, but this is pretty much the end result. I got the tensioner on, and the powertrain is pretty much complete. If you notice, I got this exhaust on. This was from the Trike that I sold. So, reusing all the engine components from that Trike build. I may have lucked out with this because I would have to go and create my own exhaust, but this one fits in there perfectly. All I have to do is just cut and shorten it and then angle this kind of out because right now it's angled into the tire. So the exhaust is pretty much taken care of too. The next thing I have to do is control arms, the shocks, and the steering, and then the control, not the control arms, the tie rods. That's the last thing I would have to do before this thing can roll. I could start this engine right now. I don't have the kill switch hooked up, so I'd have to pull a spark plug, and I don't want to mess with that. But that's it for now. I'll see you in the next one.